Have about a minute before we become official. And there we go.
All right, we're ready to begin.
Okay,
And we have a quorum, it looks like.
let's see, what have we got? 1, 2. We must have people online.
Alan, Kevin, and Tulai are online.
Okay. So I guess it's 4. So, since it's 6 o'clock, I'm gonna go ahead and call this meeting to order. And just to double check that to make sure we have quorum. I know that Ed and I are here in this meeting. And then we have Kevin and Talahi online.
Yep.
Okay. So let's move to the first item in that regard, after basically what we just did was a roll call. And look at approval of the agenda. Have people had a chance to review it, and do we have any comments or things that people want to add? Not with me. Shaking his head. Tolly, Kevin, do you have anything?
Nothing from me.
Nope, looks good to me.
Okay, so with that in mind, I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda. So move. Ed has moved. I could use a second.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I think we're good to go. So we'll start with that. The next item is to review the August 16th minutes and approve those, and then we'll go on to the September 15th minutes. The 16th was a more formal meeting here in the chamber, council chambers and online. Do people have any suggestions? Have people had a chance to look over this, and do you have any changes to suggest? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes from August 16th. And so move. Second. Okay, any discussion? Don't hear any. All in favor of approving those August 16th minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We have approved them. Moving on to the September 15th minutes. And this was a tour that we did on September 15th at lunch, where we went around to some of the, several places, the new site of the Lacey Museum and Cultural Center, the current Lacey Museum, and then we went to look at the McKinney House. That whole cycle took us about 2.5 hours. The minutes are relatively thin because it was basically just visiting those and taking a look at them. I will just ask for whether anybody has any comments that they want to add to those minutes.
I thought it was very useful.
I did too.
I thought it was very good.
I put a lot of things in my head that I needed to do in just terms of thinking about our project and what we're doing. I will entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
And any discussion that people want to have before we vote on it? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Those are approved as well. I think we move on to announcements.
Yeah, I just have one announcement, which is that Jen is not here tonight. Obviously, we are sort of moving to a system to try to, relieve people as much as possible. So she and I are going to be alternating meetings unless we both need to be at the meeting. So that is my announcement. I presume that this is Anthony Santiago.
I'm sorry I'm late.
Hi.
Traffic was crazy.
Should we take a moment and introduce Anthony? I know I haven't met him.
Yeah,
So Anthony, tell us just a short little bit about yourself.
I'm Anthony. I'm 18 and I'm the youth commissioner and I live down in Long Lake.
Okay, okay.
you go to River Ridge, right?
That is correct.
Oh, I have a son that works at the River Ridge for the school district, so.
So yes, Anthony is our new youth representative on the commission. And so it'd be great if everyone could just introduce themselves to him, and those of you online, turn your cameras on so we can see your face, know who you are.
So my name is Jim Keough. I'm the chair of the commission.
And I'm at home and I was the newest member before you came on, but I'm a little older than you are, like 60 years.
Don't look it.
Thank you.
Well, I'm actually not a member of the commission, Anthony. I'm representing the Lacey Historical Society tonight. My name is John.
Nice to meet you.
I'm Jenny Wilson. I'm a staff person. Taking notes.
Kim?
Hi, I'm Kimberly Getz. I am a commissioner.
Tilai?
Hello?
Can you turn your camera on so we can say hello?
Yes, give me just a moment. I'm trying to turn it on. Sorry.
That's okay.
Mm,
While we're waiting, I'd like to introduce my colleague from the Lacey Historical Society, Margie Wiley.
Thank you. Margie,
And she is the editor of our newsletter.
fantastic. Well, why don't we move on to Kevin while we're waiting for Tilai?
Hi, I'm Kevin Wyckoff. I'm the vice chair of the commission.
Fantastic, thank you. Oh, there's Tilai. I see your face.
can you hear me?
Yep.
Hi, I'm Tulai Batane. Nice to meet you.
Thank you. And Alan, are you there? There's Alan. Oh, we can't hear you. Can you guys hear him?
Yeah,
Not muted, so I don't know.
Yeah, it must be some sort of audio issue. Well, we'll move on.
So at this particular point, kind of moving to see if there's any public comment besides the reports that we have coming up later. And see nobody here. Is there anybody online or that we've heard from?
So yeah, I included a spreadsheet in your packet. So I just wanted to touch base on this because this is a change from what we've done before. We're trying to be consistent between the historical commission and the park board and kind of go along with the way council does things. So the spreadsheet in your packet is not public comment, that's correspondence. And the difference between those is the writer's intention. So we have a specific email box for public comment, and things that go through there are considered written public comment.
Okay,
Also, if someone additionally puts it through any other means and says this is public comment, then obviously it's public comment. But the park board gets a lot of information. So the parks and rec side of things get a lot more volume of emails, especially complaints, because, you know, there's such a high usage of those things in the community. And so they provide information relevant to the park board, and based on what emails and things come in for complaints or kudos or those kinds of things. So I'll be also giving you guys any of those things that come in. This time it was a research request, but I won't be sending all the research requests. This one just happened to be about one of the properties that was on the historic register, and it has a new owner. And so I thought that was of pertinence to the business of the commission. So items that come in as public comment through that public comment box, those will be forwarded to you guys as they come in through email. They won't be in the packets.
okay.
I hope that was clear. I know it's complicated, sorry.
So basically, we will expect to see periodically emails that come in as public comment.
Yeah, it's not very often, but occasionally.
And then we can discuss those as appropriate.
We generally don't discuss public comment, but we can check in with Jen on that. If we want to discuss something that's been put in as public comment, usually you add that to the agenda, to the next agenda. as
Okay,
an item.
that's helpful, thank you.
Or if something comes in between meetings and you want to add that to the agenda, then we can do that.
So let's see, I assume that's the only thing we have currently in the public comment side.
Yeah.
Okay, so and yes, that was interesting just to see that whole conversation about historic properties and the requirements both for approving for what you have to do if you make an improvement, that type of thing.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, I think we move on to item number 4, which is kind of the heavyweight set of our set for the night. The first item coming up, and I could use a small bit of clarification on this, Aaron. Are we voting tonight on nominations, or are we simply putting up nominations?
Yeah, we're kind of just starting the process, putting up nominations. We don't even have to officially do nominations tonight if you don't want to, but I like to start this process in October because it does sometimes happen that the December meeting ends up canceled. And if we get that done by next month, then it's all taken care of and we don't have to worry about it. But the offices don't begin until January, so we have until then to
I
make sure.
remember we did it roughly this time of your last year.
Yeah. So it's nice to get it started and get the nominations done tonight, but it's kind of up to you how far we go.
Okay. So we basically, we have 2 positions that we're talking about, chair and vice chair. And I think we might as well at least see what nominations, and then we can officially, then we'll vote on them next month. So people can think about it. If they want to add additional people in the next month before we vote, that'd be fine. But we might as well start with seeing if we've got chair and vice chair nominations for this coming year. And so I'm open to whatever discussion people want to put out here in that particular regard.
I guess I would like to continue with the people we have doing it now. I would like to nominate both of them.
So
Unless
that would
that's,
be
yes,
me and Kevin.
yes.
Why don't we do each position at a time? I think that'd be clear.
Okay. So I guess we'll start with chair. And then
Yeah.
we'll do- Okay,
Okay, and then I would like to renominate the present chairman.
And Jim, would you accept such a nomination?
we accept such a nomination.
Any other nominations? You stand alone, Jim.
Well, they've got plenty of time to decide if they want to do a coup and no.
Well, I would just soon continue with the nomination to both positions. So I would like to,
Yeah, and I'm perfectly open if somebody else is interested, so.
Okay, so let's move on to vice chair then.
Okay, so vice chair,
We know we have a motion for Kevin to continue to be nominated. Kevin, would you accept that nomination?
I would.
Okay. Any other nominations? Okay,
let's go in twice. So do think about it. If you're interested in either of those positions, we will ask this question again next month at the meeting before we actually take a vote, so. And I think from there, Aaron, we will move on to the draft 2024 work plan.
all right. Let me get that pulled up.
Pardon me?
I'm gonna get that pulled up for you.
Okay, great.
Come on. Okay, can you see it?
We can.
Cannot?
Yeah, we can.
Okay,
I was just making sure they could see it in the sense of being able to read it.
Oh.
well, you got it in your packet too, so those of you in the room, I think Jenny has hard copies there.
Yes, she did.
So as a reminder, so we already did kind of update the 2023 work plan with what we've been working on. And we'll revisit that again just as we get closer to the end of the year and I draft our accomplishments. But just to remind you for clarification, this work plan is for the Historical Commission, not for staff or the museum. Museum goals are outlined in the museum strategic plan, which you also will be reviewing. So this is your work plan. So I think we'll just take whatever, I'm assuming that you all have had the opportunity to look at this. So if anyone has suggestions for changes, improvements, clarifications, what have you, I am ready to make them.
So I know, Aaron, that when I was looking at it, one of the questions that I had, we talked about updating the policies and procedures for operation and guiding principles. And I'm trying to remember, did we have a date on that?
There isn't really a date. I mean, it's kind of optimistic, right? So Jen and I have been sort of talking about this because all the policies need to kind of be reviewed. And we were trying to figure out how we could do it with the least impact on everyone. And so we want to give a go of doing maybe like 1-page review at a time kind of thing. Because it's not like we're creating new policies. When we were creating new policies, it took, meetings to hammer that stuff out. When we're doing revisions, it should be pretty easy. So we were thinking that we would try to do one thing at a time. And then if that was working, we could potentially disband the policy committee if we didn't.
That was the question I was leading to, was since it currently has that as the responsible commission or committee rather, whether we were going to continue to do that or we're going to do that more inside our meetings.
Yeah, it sort of depends on if it starts to take up a bunch of time. And maybe we could do it where if anyone had significant things, they could send that to me ahead of time and I could, revise and then bring it. I don't know. We can just play it by ear and see how it goes. Maybe it'll go really fast. Maybe it won't. But I think I, as well as Kim and whoever else it would be, because right now it's just me and Kim, would, prefer not to have additional meetings. But, if that ends up being what we need to do, then we'll do that. But I think we should try it. See if it'll-
Okay, so should we make a revision therefore to the entry there under responsible commissioner?
Well, why don't we just put? And we'll change it if it needs to be. Sound good?
Okay. It just seems like that reflects more like what we're talking about at this point.
Yeah.
Are there other comments from any of the commissioners? And we're in the same position as we were with the officers. Am I correct that we're looking tonight and then we approve next meeting?
Yeah, we don't need to approve this tonight.
Okay, so tonight we're looking and asking questions and, okay.
And updating, and I'll bring the final
And
version.
thinking if there's anything
time.
else to add between here and there.
I would just want to say that I like the idea of that just being part of the general meeting of the commission. I don't really see, having a separate entity and a separate like subcommittee or anything to take that on. I think that, based on the amount of work we've typically do in our monthly meeting, I think it's manageable to include all that just as part of the normal commission.
Yeah, I agree. It does fluctuate. We have had some pretty long meetings sometimes, but we can always, pull something for that month. If we've got a heavy load.
Isn't that what motions to table?
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
So I'm just going to ask a question, especially since we took the tour of the McKinney House in this last round in September. Right now, we don't have any. It looks like you've got Jen working on that. I'm assuming reporting to us, is there going to be a role for the commission in that regard?
Yeah, I think there will be a role for the commission. Exactly what that is, I don't know, but I was going to get to it during her report, but we have gotten initial funding approval for the wetland delineation report and parcel assessment, as well as the historic property research. That still has to be approved by council, but it looks like that's a go ahead. So we'll be doing that, and so we'll have the opportunity to review that work as a commission.
So I'm assuming that that's really when we'll get into the nuts and bolts of what might happen.
Yep.
Okay, so that sounds like it's probably later in 2024.
Yeah, we're gonna have to go through the RFP process, which usually takes a few months. But that's on my list. So Jen will probably do the wetland delineation RFP, and I'll do the historic property RFP most likely. So it'll just be getting those going. But we can't do that until we get the final approval, which usually doesn't happen until December.
Okay. Other questions or comments? Anybody online have something you want to say? Again, I would urge you to re-review this. I'm assuming we'll be sending it out again in our next packet as well.
Yep.
And see if there's anything else that you either want to adjust or suggest any adjustments or any additions that we might for items that have been missed. Anyway, with that in mind, it sounds like we've taken the input for this moment. And we should probably move on to the kiosk project.
Okay. So the MOU has been approved by the Thurston County Board of Commissioners and Lacey City Council, and the kiosk design has been submitted to Jen. She is going to be applying for a building permit through Lacey's planning department, and once approved, it'll be attached to the MOU as Exhibit A. And then it will be routed to the county administrator and the city manager for their signatures. The panel wording and the design will be reviewed by city staff and the historical commission before going to print. So I'm assuming this is going to happen fairly soon now. I'm sure that Jim will be able to give us more information, but City of Lacey staff will issue a notice to proceed for construction. The construction and installation will be provided by the county. And then Lacey staff will move any irrigation lines that need to be moved before construction. And then after final inspection, a dedication and celebration for the kiosk can take place.
I checked in with, after seeing this on the agenda, I checked in with Rob Kirkwood, and their general thinking at the moment, which of course is subject to all of these steps, was that they were hoping sometime in the early to mid spring to actually be able to begin construction. So, and basically their thing is, well, that's what we're shooting for, and we'll see how it works.
Okay.
Well, I mean, I know
I
it's
mean, I hope, but we haven't seen drafts
maybe
yet.
optimistic,
We haven't seen any drafts yet, so yeah.
which the wording of the plaques or
The
the,
wording or the design, yeah.
okay. I've been involved in wording on about 3 of the plaques. I think you and I have managed to get a couple that we've been happy with that seem
Yeah,
general.
but we have to do final approval when everything's laid out and done. We have to be
And
able,
I haven't seen a final design and
Yeah.
photo type stuff on that either. So I'm assuming what they're doing right now is trying to set in motion the structure part of it, and then during the winter sort out the wording and the display portion. So
all right, well.
hopefully that'll work that way. Any questions from anybody on the project? And just so you know, this is going to be near one of the parking lots out at the rack. So the idea is that people would be able to readily go and look at some of these displays. They've been talking about having somewhere between 6 and 8, depending on how their design finally works out. Each of them, I've heard somewhere in the range of about this large. And so they've been sifting and sorting. I know one of the questions was whether or not one of them was going to be a map that pointed people to the locations of the various sites that the other plaques talk about. That was one. I know that they were still sifting a couple of ones that they weren't quite sure which ones basically were going to be their top priority first set. And then they've been trying to work through. What I've been hearing from them is usually typical plaques would be around 250 words, maybe 300, depending on typeface and number of photos available. And then probably typically having anywhere from 2 to 4 photos, depending on what's available again. Types of topics they've been looking at doing. One was on the Lacey history with a quick tag about the museum. There was going to be one about the Evergreen Ballroom. I think they've been talking about one about St. Martin's University as one of the sites. They were looking to come up with at least one, if not 2, related to the Nisqually tribe. One for certain, and possibly one that specifically dealt with the treaty. I'm trying to, let me see. It seems like there was 1 or 2 others that were floating in this conversation, which I am not immediately thinking of, but I know I have notes about at home. And I'll see, look real fast to see if I've got anything else it says here, but that kind of gives you the basic overview of what they're going for in this regard. Yeah, I think that's what I can remember, what I have notes on immediately right with me. And that covers most of what they're doing at this particular stage. So with that, if there are not any other questions, we'll move forward to the funding strategy committee for the Lacey Museum and Cultural Center.
Yeah, we had our first committee meeting on August 31st. Jen gave a project overview and reviewed the funding strategy, including the buckets of funding, percentages of the total for each of those buckets, and our intended timeline. And I shared a spreadsheet of funding sources that we have been working on with grants and foundations and that sort of thing to ensure that we have everything, all the information in one place. And then we also brainstormed who else could be at the table with the committee, as well as other potential funding sources. Jim, do you have anything to add about that? You were there.
Well, I mean, what I always look at with this particular one is it's I mean, we've done a terrific job so far, I think, laying the groundwork for the museum, and it's kind of just a thought process of saying, okay, so now how do we get to the sources of money that take on construction? Because only certain sources do construction, and the types of money you're talking about are sizable. So that's I think the inherent challenge. The thing that I certainly wonder about when I think about it from my background, I used to work in economic development, is thinking about, okay, so, you know, are there corporate citizens in essence in this area who themselves or through foundations that they might have might be interested in putting money into this, because that's the kind of money you're talking about. And obviously there's a certain degree of federal sources and that type of thing, but those usually typically are in cycles. And I know that Aaron and Jen have been trying to track those cycles already. But you know, those are kind of the two big, and of course, then there's a community layer to be laid as well. But when you think about the money type, you've got a chunk there of $7-8 million that you're talking about raising from some big sources. So that is ultimately a challenge. It's also, you know, it's the thing we want to get to. I mean, you don't want to have it all out in tents. So.
Yeah, that wouldn't work.
Oh, come on, Aaron. Just think of how well it keep your display.
You guys are funny.
So we have our next meeting, what, about toward the end of next month, right? Or no, toward the end of this month.
I think it's this month.
Yes, it's this month. I'm just thinking that.
Oh, it should be at the bottom of the agenda. It's it's October 26th.
Okay, that sounds right. Any questions, comments, leads? We'll take funding leads. So Aaron, should we move on to the land acknowledgement policy? And I know this represents some changes in wording, and even though we've had one in the past. So.
Yeah, so I included the resolution from City Council as well as the updated council policies in your packets. So on September 21, the Lacey City Council adopted Resolution 1137, which established a land acknowledgement policy for the city of Lacey. And in addition, the council directed staff to include land acknowledgements in all future plans to be adopted by council, as well as on all future city council meeting agendas. So let's talk about what a land acknowledgement is for anyone who maybe doesn't know. So it's a formal statement that recognizes and pays tribute to, as well as expressing gratitude and respect for Indigenous people and affirming the ongoing relationship between Indigenous people and the land. And it helps to raise awareness of Indigenous history, perspectives, and experiences, past, present, and future. So in addition, some other notes is that a land acknowledgement is not meant to be a performative act. It's not something we just say to be like, okay, we did that. It's ceremonial in nature. It doesn't carry legal authority. but it's a first step that is hoped that to inspire more action and better relationships with Indigenous people. This was developed in conjunction with the Nisqually tribe. And so it was a long process to make sure that we were adequately representing them. And it's supposed to raise awareness of histories that led to past and current development of the area, including a history of dispossession, displacement, colonization, cultural erasure, broken treaties, etc. And it's also meant to acknowledge that our Indigenous communities are still here and still an important part of our communities. So the city recognizes that land acknowledgements are powerful statements and that they're most meaningful when paired with authentic and sustained relationships with those Indigenous communities. And so with all of that, what we're asking for the commission to do tonight is to approve the addition of the land acknowledgement to our regular agenda. Staff is proposing that we read the abbreviated version of the land acknowledgement at the beginning of each meeting. Council is also including it written on their agenda, but I feel like that's a bit much for our small, agendas. So, and I think the spoken land acknowledgement is pretty powerful too. So with that, I give it to you for thoughts and discussion.
I think.
Do we need to have a motion first, Jim?
I was gonna suggest, I was grabbing this real fast, because I was thinking it might be worth just reading it. Let's see, so it's the part that's the abbreviated land acknowledgement.
Yeah.
Okay, I was gonna suggest I might read it aloud just for people.
Okay.
As part of this, just because I think that kind of informs how it looks and reads and sounds, and then we can talk about that from there.
Okay.
In terms of people are comfortable with that, what we're happy, whether any suggestions, and ultimately we need to motion to approve this, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so let me go ahead and read it. This meeting is being held on the ancestral land of the tribal people of the Treaty of Medicine Creek, including the Nisqually Indian Tribe and Squaxin Island Tribe. We acknowledge and remember that those tribal people not recognized today who were absorbed or relocated into other tribes for survival. We recognize the ancestors and their descendants who are still here. We recognize and respect the tribal people of the Treaty of the Medicine Creek as the traditional stewards of this land since time immemorial, and their role today in taking care of these lands in perpetuity. We recognize and have the responsibility to call attention to the histories of dispossession, forced removal, and abridged treaty rights that allowed our nation, state, and city to develop as it has today. We recommend that community members read the Medicine Creek Treaty of 1854. People have any comments? Are we good with approving that?
I think we should take a good look at this because he's at home and I've been through a lot of this myself on this stuff, and we didn't just send two people down there and say set her up and that rolled back this way. There's a lot more than that in the things we did, and I'm sure this would be too, but I don't know who was involved in this or what happened. And I don't know if it's a good idea or not. It's a great idea, but it has to be the combination of the two parties. And if you don't have both parties involved there and and agreeing to this.
So your question is whether this is acceptable with to the tribes themselves?
Both ways.
It
Okay,
was developed in partnership with the Nisqually and Squaxin Island tribes and Lacey City Council.
And they got together and had a meeting and put this out. Is that what happened?
Yep,
How long did it take?
several months, I think. They've been working on it since the beginning of this year, I think.
Okay.
So, my only concern with it, I think it's great. I'm very supportive of it. My concern is exactly what was mentioned, is that it does feel a bit performative. So I'm not sure how to fix that problem, but it does, reading it out loud does feel a bit like going through the motions, which is not what we want to do. So I'm open to suggestions on how to make it more meaningful.
I don't know. We do this at the beginning of all of our history talks, and I don't know, it doesn't feel performative to me when we do it, but probably because Felicia and I are reading it. I don't know. Margie, you've been to a lot of those. What do you feel like it sounds like? Or Jim?
how would you say this particular acknowledgement is different from what you've been doing in the past?
Yeah, it is.
In what ways would you say it's different?
I think the essence of it is the same because we did the same consultation with the tribes when we developed the one for the museum, because we weren't going to be saying things without talking to them first. So the essence of it is the same. There's just there's a little bit more, like the last couple of sentences are different. The histories of dispossession, forced removal, we don't have that part in there, but we will be changing it as per city policy. So, I mean, we can't change the wording. We can only decide how we are going to use it as a commission. So, I'm not sure if it's acceptable for us to say we're not going to say it or put it on the agenda or something. I think we have to decide something. I don't know. I'd have to talk to Jen about that. We could put it on the agenda, written form, and mention it, but that would feel more performative to me than not saying it at all. I mean, I had the idea of having it be read by somebody different every night, every meeting, so that each person would have the chance to like feel that message, but I don't know.
What do they do with other contractors?
Sorry?
What do they do with other people they deal with?
What do you mean other people they deal
Right.
with? I
Does
don't
anybody do this to them except us?
do this to them.
To
Other,
what we're doing here is we're saying from now on, if you have a contract with them, you will use this as a
it's not. Okay, it's not there's nothing about a contract. So what the city council is saying is that at public events, at city council meetings, a statement acknowledging that the land we're on once belonged to the tribes that we're gonna talk about that. That we're gonna mention that. And we do that at our history talks before every program. Lots of other entities do it. When I go to museum conferences, almost every session has a land acknowledgement at the beginning. So, but there's nothing tied to contracts. It's just about the city acknowledging the situation.
And I didn't mean to suggest that we shouldn't read it. I think we should. I think it should be on the agenda. And every place else where, it's appropriate. I want to make sure that we are not just going through the motions. Right? Kind of like the pledge. The pledge, at least to me, feels most of the time feels very performative. And I don't want this to go down that path. That's all I'm trying to say.
Fair enough.
Question is, who's the intended audience for this?
I think Alan is talking, but I cannot hear him.
It sounds muted. Or not muted, it sounds
Sounds
garbled.
like Charlie Brown. Try again, Alan.
So, can you hear me now?
Barely.
I was just curious who the intended audience is.
Who the intended audience is? I think it's anyone who is in attendance is the audience. Anyone who watches later. I don't think he said anything else.
No, it sounds quiet. Other questions, comments? Is this something you want us to vote on this evening, Aaron, or is this?
Yeah, that was the plan.
Okay. Is there, I have a very minor edit to suggest.
We can't change the wording. There's nothing I can do about that.
Okay, okay,
It's official.
okay. I wasn't trying to change meaning. I was merely trying to change.
I totally understand. What is it? Just so we could pass it on.
That the, and abridged treaty rights that allowed our nation, state, and city to develop as I would say they have today.
Oh. Call attention to the histories as yes, you are correct. Okay, I will point that out. It's a good call right there.
I just noticed that when I was trying to read it, I found myself stumbling at that particular point, and then it was the flow of the language.
Okay, I will send that. I bet they'll change that. Okay.
So, I guess what I think what we probably should do is, I'm going to entertain a motion to approve this and approve its use at the meetings that the Historical Commission sponsors and holds. Is that what we're
So
looking
what we're asking is the format. Do you want to say it at each meeting, or do you want to put it in writing on the agenda? Do you want to do both? Because the land acknowledgement has already been approved by city council, so we don't need to approve it.
I'd like to ask, is this approved and we're just back in this fire, this is already done and approved? Because I saw this coming 6 months ago and it didn't come, and then all of a sudden it appeared. And it just happened. And maybe you could tell me what we're bound with and who we're bound with by it. I mean, are we bound by just the council? Are we bound by the tribe and the council? Are we bound with you and the chief? Or
Like I have said, this was approved by city council in September and they consulted with the tribes to develop it.
And that
So,
was just your.
we are being directed by city council. It is not required to be said at every single public meeting that ever existed. Other commissions and boards are adding it to their agenda and reading it at each meeting. And so that's what staff is proposing that we do as well. And so so no, you cannot change the wording. That's already been approved by council. We are bound by council. You guys were all appointed by the mayor and the city council. And so what you guys are doing tonight is deciding the format that we would like to include the land acknowledgement in our meetings.
Okay,
So I would like to move that we adopt a policy of printing, including the statement on all of our agendas and reading it at each commission meeting. And we'll figure out a way to make sure it doesn't get performative in our implementation thereof.
is there a second?
I second.
Okay, discussion. Hearing none, I'm going to move to a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
I
I,
Aye.
I heard 3.
I heard 3 as well. All
Alan,
opposed?
Alan, did you vote?
I did not.
Okay.
Okay, opposed?
I am opposed, I don't think we've gone through it enough.
So we've got 3 in favor, 1 opposed, abstaining.
Correct.
You have to state your reason for abstaining, such as a conflict of interest.
Okay, I guess I can abstain then. I'm not
What?
gonna vote. I'm not voting.
You have to state your reason for not voting. It's part of the policies.
Do we always have to do that or just on this?
No, always.
Always.
We're not supposed to be abstaining unless there's a conflict of interest. Otherwise, everyone's supposed to vote.
Okay, I vote in favor.
I'm sorry, what?
I'm in favor of it.
Okay,
So it sounds like it has passed.
yes.
So we will be including that on the agenda and then figuring out how and reading it and figuring out how to implement that reading process so it isn't performative. I got that right, Kimberly?
exactly right. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So with that, I think we move to reports and Lacey Historical Society, John Jacek and Margie Wiley are both here. And looking forward to hearing from you.
Well, hopefully you all got a copy of our first newsletter. We're a whole new regime and it's been starting and we're very well stocked, I should say. And we would like you to come to our first annual meeting on October 24th. That's next Tuesday at 6:30. And that will be our first one. And we would like to let you know all of us and have cake and coffee and see a lot of good historical pictures that a lot of us have back in our spare room or something. And I think I'll turn it over to John Jacek, the secretary.
The other thing I wanted to mention is that we have 3 former mayors coming to provide I don't want to call it the entertainment, but the substantive portion of the
program.
The program, that's it, yes. The 3 are our current president, John Halverson being the lead on this, but also former Mayor Karen Frazier and former Mayor Graham Sackerson will be there. The gist of the presentation is seeing Lacey's history from their perspective at the head of the city government. That's in keeping with, I think, the theme of the entire society's efforts to basically gather and share stories from our citizenry. The newsletter being one of our main mechanisms to get those stories out. But we're also trying to join the 20th century, 21st century, excuse me, by we're now in a process to develop a website. And so hopefully we can get those messages out through that mechanism as well. Another program that we're talking about for the next year is to develop some kind of oral history process where we engage students from the high schools and the colleges in the area to be the interviewers of folks that have stories to tell. We're certainly looking forward to working with the museum, certainly not in conflict with, but the museum and Aaron already has experience with oral history projects that we'd like to support them as well as other projects and independent activities throughout the next year. But that indeed, it was a difficult year this last year where we did go through a time when we faced possible disillusion, and we've bounced back quite well from that. And we're looking forward, would invite you to come to our annual meeting. There will be cake. It's from Costco. You know, it's going to be good.
Well, where is this located?
At the Lacey Community Center, of course, yes. We have, I think, almost a standing invitation from the community center to come back each year. So we're looking forward to being there. Thank you for asking.
I just need to be able to find it.
Yes, indeed. So Pacific Avenue, just right there.
Yeah. Any questions people want to ask? No, thank you very much for your report. Appreciate you coming.
Thank you.
Next up was the Policy Steps Committee item. I don't believe we've had any meetings in that regard for, correct, Aaron?
No, we remain on hiatus. Thank you very much.
Okay. So then might as well go around to the commissioners. Kimberly, I'm going to let you start off on this one.
I have nothing to report. Thank you very much.
Kevin?
I have nothing to report as well.
Okay, Talai?
Sorry, I have nothing to report.
Okay, Alan?
I'd like to report there was no ice cream truck at the last meeting.
And Ed?
I can't think of anything to complain about at all.
Okay, my report has pretty much been incorporated in what I said about the kiosk committee. So I'm going to leave it there for right now. Aaron?
Yeah. So we've revised the museum report that's in your packet to try to make it more succinct and just with brief highlighted points. So rather than this whole detail of everything we do. So I do hope that you will return to it and look at it, but just a few things to highlight. The history talks are going really well. Since we last met, we had the Lacey Fire in as well as Wolf Haven. The Wolf Haven talk was not well attended, but I think people missed out because I thought it was really interesting. And plus there were cute wolf pictures. it's pretty cool to have such a, world-renowned wolf sanctuary in our community. So that's cool. Coming up for the next history talk is going to be a really cool history of the Nisqually Delta and the Wildlife Refuge. So we're looking forward to that. Just a sec. We just lost a commissioner, so I need to record when that happened. Okay. Yeah, and so if you have any other questions about anything on the report, I would entertain any questions.
I wanted to note that I can understand Aaron's effort to try to consolidate storage. I've seen the spread of boxes all over the place around the city hall, including her office. I'm not sure where Aaron is sitting in her office currently.
I'm at home right now. There you go.
But yeah, I've had
I have a
occasions
plan.
where I've visited with Aaron on something and been upstairs and there have been boxes galore. So I can see where she's been working quite hard on trying to figure out what to do with all that. I was personally curious whether or not you've gotten any further on OC Lacey.
I have. But I don't want to share yet.
Okay, is there dirt here, Aaron, or is there?
Yes, it's cool. I mean, it's not like as mind-blowing as some things, but we've been looking for him for so long and I figured it out, but I want to be able to present it to you guys in a nice format, and I want to be able to publish it on our website and in our newsletter. So if you guys want to have the preemptive ask to hear it first, I can probably do that.
Well, we won't steal your thunder just yet. I think you deserve the opportunity to put that all together in full story. So I appreciate that. I've been doing some genealogy research in my family, and I have a couple of those stories that I'm not even sure my family members are quite ready to hear.
I can't tell you, I have never encountered a genealogy family that has been so hard to freaking track down. I mean, every time I switch to a different branch, because you know how you research people around, because sometimes they'll mention family members or whatever. I hit another brick wall and I'm like, come on, people.
Yep, I fully understand that.
But
Okay,
yes,
well, you let us know when you're ready to do the
Okay.
big.
I will.
I'm assuming you're also doing the reporting for Jen.
I am.
Okay, so.
I already mentioned that budget requests have been approved. They're pending city council's final approval, like I said before, which usually happens in December. Although I think it's pretty rare that city council goes backwards at this point, but it could happen. So we got 3 things funded this year, which is pretty off the charts for the museum. We usually are lucky if we get 1, so yay us. Of course, this is probably the first year since I've been here that we haven't been asking for staff because I have Felicia. So we asked for a subscription to Adobe All Apps so that we can have Photoshop and InDesign and Illustrator so that we can start designing our own exhibits. We've sort of run out of the free or really inexpensive small traveling exhibits for the museum. They're pretty limited. So we needed to do this anyway in preparation for the new museum. So Felicia and I are taking classes and learning how to use it, and we're working on a new exhibit. And so yeah, that's very helpful. And then I already mentioned the other 2 items, the McKinney House parcel assessment and wetland delineation. report, that's for 50,000, and then the historic preservation consultant to do both the McKinney House and the Jacob Smith House research, that's 15,000. And then my last announcement is that Sarah Smith has turned in her resignation, so her last day will be October 27th, and she apologizes for not being able to be here. She had a previous commitment that she could not change, so she sends her well wishes and enjoyed participating on the commission. That's all I've got.
Okay. Does anybody have anything else for the good of the order? Going once, going twice. If not, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second,
A second.
Second.
any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of adjournment?
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you all.
We'll be seeing you in November.
Bye-bye.